All right, hello YouTube. I know, sorry I'm late. Camera difficulties. Um, so today I'm going to be reviewing Batman Begins. So I am old enough to remember um, before this came out, how much how much hype there was around this movie. How much hype there was around this movie, but also, um, but also obviously um, how much skepticism there also was around this movie. Um, and that, and one of the biggest reasons, obviously, being the fact that there hadn't been another Batman movie, obviously, since Joel Schumacher's Batman and Robin, which, obviously, the less said about that, the better. Um, but, um, the fact that, there obviously hadn't been, another Batman movie since then. Um, and a lot of people, nobody obviously expected, Batman Begins to be just, the massive success and the massive hit that it was, obviously at the time. um and I actually remember hearing, from what I understand, Christopher Nolan actually designed the Batmobile first and then built the movie around, um, and then built, built the rest of the movie around, around that. Um, Christopher Nolan, obviously, uh, and Christopher Nolan. Another thing that I actually found out. Another thing that I actually learned was Christopher Nolan, when a film director, goes into a movie, obviously, particularly, you know, something like this, obviously, as a filmmaker, like a fair amount of research into, like whatever it is that you're doing, right? Uh, um, and Christopher Nolan obviously did a fair amount of research, into like the Batman mythos, and the Batman, and Batman, obviously, like as a character, like one of his biggest influences, and obviously it shows, is Batman the Long Halloween. Um and he and you know and while doing that research, one of the things that occurred to Nolan was really Batman's like entire origin had never really been told before in a movie. um the closest thing, obviously, before this, the closest thing that we had to a Batman origin story was the animated movie Batman Mask of the Phantasm. And, so it occurred to Nolan, that no movie, no previous Batman film, dove into, really dove into Batman's, entire origin story. Um, and that is obviously one of the things that this movie tackles, obviously, um, is, which is why, literally like the first hour of the movie really focuses on, um really focuses on, like Bruce's, transformation into Batman, how Bruce's trauma, um, drove him to become, like his trauma and, and his need for vengeance, um, drove him into becoming, Batman. And so the movie opens with Bruce Wayne, as a kid playing with his childhood friend Rachel Dawes, and then he falls into I want to say, like this, he falls into like this well. Um, he falls into like this well, which, if you go deeper into it, is actually this cave, which obviously later turns into um, the Batcave. Um, and then we get um, and I want to say maybe like the first maybe like 10-15 minutes of the movie focuses on Bruce, focuses on, shows us Bruce's relationship with his parents, and how, um, and really, like how much he loved his parents, how much, um, like how much he loved his parents, how close he was to them. And that makes him, so when it's finally time, for his parents to die, it makes his reaction, um, it makes, Bruce's reaction and his, it makes the scene, much more impactful, when his parents, like finally do die. And, um, and it makes him, there's a line from the original Batman movie, from that first, Tim Burton Batman movie, um, that I think really, really sums up, that I think, really, really sums up, um, what Bruce, that really, really sums up, Bruce's transformation, into Batman in this movie. And that is, um, a reporter, um, says to, so Vicky Vale, and again, this is the 89 Batman movie that I'm talking about right now. Um, Vicky Vale ends up teaming up with a reporter, um, in the movie, in the original Batman movie, um, and to try to find out, like who Batman is. And she is dating Bruce Wayne, and she obviously has no clue, like who Bruce Wayne is. And, um so so together, they dive into, his past, to try to do like some research into him. And he finds, the article of his parents, of his parents' murder. And they're reading it, and and this reporter says to Vicky, he goes, I mean, and he says to her, he goes, I mean, what do you think something like this does to a kid? And that is exactly, and we see that, in this movie, we see exactly what his parents' death, you know, um, does to him, in this movie, and how it affects him, how it, and how it affects him. He is, because, after his parents' murder, after his parents' murder, as he, after after his parents' murder, like as an adult, as an adult, as a young guy, he is he's very much acting, like an angry teenager, basically. Um like he's angry at the world, he's angry at um he's angry at the world. He doesn't um you know, he he's angry at the world, he's angry at pretty much like everyone and everything. And he doesn't and he's so fixated on revenge at this point. And he's just he's so fixated on revenge, and he's so angry that um that he's not thinking about he's not thinking about like justice yet. He's not thinking about um he's only at this point he's only thinking about like making himself feel better, basically. um so he goes um and when the movie opens, he is actually um and when the movie opens, he is in prison, actually. And we learn that he put himself there um basically in an attempt to try to understand um like the criminal mind, like the criminal mind, try to understand criminals and conquer like his own fears. So um he is visited by Rachel Gould in prison. Or no, I'm sorry, Henry Ducard, who we later find out is Rachel Gould. Um but he is visited by a guy in prison, and um he is basically offering him a path. And um he is um so when he gets out of prison, when he goes to the house of Rachel Gould, when he starts his training, um with Rachel Gould in the League of Shadows, it's really at that point that um he is learning um like to channel his emotions. He's learning to um it's at that point that he finally has like a mentor, and he finally has somebody there to show him um everything that he needs to everything that he needs to learn, so that he doesn't lose himself in the process. And that is what training with the League of Shadows, training with Rachel Gould in the League of Shadows shows him. And um and then obviously he finds out their true intentions, and obviously he leaves Rachel Gould in the League of Shadows behind, and he goes back to Gotham after being gone for 7 years. um And when he reunites with Alfred, it's really at that point that he knows, he knows at that point, like, what he has to do. He is ready to do something. He is ready to do something about, all the crime and all the corruption in Gotham City, a city that is currently being run by Carmine Falcone, the major Gotham City's, major crime boss, who basically has the city bought and paid for. Um, and yeah, and literally the first hour really focuses on uh the first hour really focuses on Bruce's transformation from, excuse me, from Bruce Wayne, into Batman. And um Christopher Nolan, this is not, this is one of my favorite movies of all time. I'm not gonna lie. And Christopher Nolan, just, I don't think anybody, nobody at the time, um, nobody at the time saw, um, it's like I said before, nobody expected this to be, nobody expected, Christopher Nolan, to take Batman, like he did, and literally, redefine him, for years to come. Because obviously, when people think Batman, because obviously these days, when people think, Christopher Nolan, they think Batman. It's, they think, the Dark Knight trilogy. They think of, the director, who literally plucked Batman, out of the gutter, and literally redefined him, for a new generation and for many years to come. Um, because again, we didn't have another Batman movie after Batman and Robin, because obviously, because it did so poorly. you know um nobody expected this. And I still remember, like the massive hype and the massive skepticism, that this movie got. And yes, the fact that I am old enough to remember that shows you how old I am. No, no, I'm only 32, but you, I think you guys get where I'm coming from. Talking about this is making me feel old. Um, no, um, I remember seeing, the pictures, in magazines. Um, I remember the video game coming out. I remember just, like the massive promotion, um, and hype, that this movie got, when it came out. I remember, everything from, from that first poster, being shown in theaters, to the video game coming out, to the toys coming out, to literally, just about everything. And um y- y- and the fact that, only Christopher Nolan could have done this. Christopher Nolan, literally had, an impossible task at the time, and that was, to redefine Batman, uh, not just, for a new generation, but also, for many years to come, and he did it. I'm, he did that. And like I've seen, you know, these movies, are obviously so beloved that, even people out there, who aren't even, necessarily, real comic book fans, love these movies. Um, and, and to be able, to be able to do that, to be able, to have that kind of level of success, to be able to do, something, to be able, to do something like that is a very, 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 very hard thing to do. And and Christopher Nolan, being, just, the absolute friggin' legend, and that he is. It just, I mean, he did, again, he did what nobody was expecting. Um, I remember hearing, um, reports that, when Christian Bale at the time, said, that he was going to, uh, was telling people, about his next movie at the time, when he told people, that he was going to be Batman. Um, literally everyone that he told was laughing at him, obviously, because, again, there hadn't been another Batman movie made since Batman and Robin. Um, which, obviously turned Batman into, a complete fucking joke. And both Christopher Nolan and, Christian Bale, obviously had to tell them that they were like, yeah, no, 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 that's not what we're doing. We're doing it. We're gonna take it seriously. It's gonna be dark. It's gonna be gritty. It's gonna be, uh, it's not gonna be, it's gonna, we're gonna do it, the way that it should be. And at the time, before the movie came out, there were a lot of people that obviously, that didn't believe that. Um, and obviously, when the movie hit theaters, people were like, "Oh my God, this is amazing! This is, the best Batman movie I've ever seen in my life. This is, this is a masterpiece." And um, it did win an Oscar that year when it came out. Obviously, um, I just, I mean, you had an all-star cast. I mean, you had Christian Bale, you had Cillian Murphy, Liam Neeson, Gary Oldman, I who in my book was just born to play Commissioner Gordon. um he was just I he he literally looks exactly like how Gordon looked, um in the comic books, the particularly Batman Year One and The Long Halloween, um Christopher Nolan did incorporate elements of both of those stories into this movie. Particularly The Long Halloween. The Long Halloween was one of his biggest influences for, um, excuse me, sorry, for the Dark Knight trilogy. Um, and what's really incredible about this movie, though, is how well, uh, is even though it came out in 2005, it still holds up incredibly, incredibly well. Um, and a lot of that is due to the fact that, um, as far as I know, there is no CGI in this movie. Christopher Nolan, Christopher Nolan does not believe in CGI. Um, he usually uses, practical, uh, practical effects um, practical effects to just about, any, basically, he avoids, CGI at all costs, basically. um and that's one of the many reasons, why this movie holds up as well as it does um, is because it is, you know, despite the fact, despite the fact that the movie is obviously, a superhero movie, um, there is a great deal of, um, the movie feels very, very lifelike. You know what I mean? Like it feels very, it feels, like very, very grounded and very, very realistic. Um, and very, very realistic. Like there's very, very little science fiction in this movie. Um, there's very, very little science fiction in this movie, um, which actually reminds me of the which actually reminds me a great deal of the graphic novel Batman Year One, because in that story, there is very, very little science fiction in that story. It's very, very grounded. It's very, very realistic. Um, it's very, very realistic in that, um, and it's not. It almost feels, very, very real. It almost feels like something, that could happen. I mean, obviously, it wouldn't happen. Obviously, Batman has, like all those fancy gadgets that, could obviously, never exist. But I think you guys understand where I'm coming from. um yeah, no, this movie, I mean, Christopher Nolan, I mean, I mean, he really, really did. He just, he really, really did the impossible. He really, really did. Um, he really, really did. And I mean, everything about the movie, um, particularly Scarecrow, who I've always been a massive, massive fan of, ever since I was a kid. And I'll let you in on a little secret. Actually, when I first saw, um, I don't remember how old I was when I first saw Batman Begins, but I will let you in on a little secret. I was probably like, I don't know. I was maybe like 11, 12, 13. I don't know. I don't remember, but I will let you in on a little secret. When I first heard Scarecrow's voice, for the first time in this movie, it literally scared the living shit out of me. I'm not even joking. Like I couldn't, like I literally, like I literally had to shut the movie off the first time I heard um Scarecrow's voice in this movie. It scared the shit out of me so much. I mean, obviously today it doesn't bother me, um but yeah, no, the way that he did Scarecrow in this movie was just I I mean, it's just is absolutely phenomenal. And and again, he's always been, one of my favorite villains, in Cillian Murphy being, just, the incredible actor that he is. Um, just being, the incredible actor that he is, could not have done a better job. Um, just, could not have done a better job. Yeah, this movie is very much about, um, it it's very much about, justice. It's very much about, um defeating, your inner demons, and really, rising up to, like what needs to be done in order to save, in order to save your city. um Batman, Bruce Wayne uh, had to learn a lot before deciding to become, he obviously, needed to learn a lot. He needed, like people to guide him towards, um, I don't want to necessarily say the light, but because, Batman is obviously, a dark character, but he needed someone, he needed people to be able to show him that justice and revenge are not the same thing. Um, and that revenge, um, is not, um, and that revenge, is not the way to go. It's not, it's not, revenge, revenge alone wouldn't solve anything. It's like he needed, people he needed, certain people to be able to guide him so that he could become, so that he could then, become Batman and give people and give, the city of Gotham, the symbol of hope that they needed. Um, and it's like, it's like Bruce Wayne says in the movie, people need, dramatic. Sorry, I can't talk. People need dramatic examples to shake them out of apathy, and I can't do that as Bruce Wayne. As a man, flesh and blood, I can be ignored, I can be destroyed, but as a symbol, I can be incorruptible, I can be everlasting. And that is what, um, and that is what he, um, and that is what, excuse me, and that is what, Bruce Wayne, you know, um, that is what, Bruce Wayne, becomes. He becomes, that hero, that symbol, that Gotham City needs. And yeah, no, this movie is just, I mean, it's so incredible. And it's, like I said, it is one of my favorite movies of all time. Um, and it's, yeah, I don't know what else, I don't know what else I can say. So yeah, so let me know what you guys think. Let me know, uh, let me know what you guys think. And I probably will do a review of Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises at some point. I have no idea when, because just because, I have a bunch of other stuff planned, for the channel, but I will get to them at some point. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Let me know, uh, let me know what you guys think. Like, subscribe, and something I forget to say every single video. Hit the notification bell if you guys want to be notified, um, of, like upcoming content and streams and stuff like that. And I don't know why, but I forget to say that every single video. So yeah, hit the notification bell if you want to be notified of, again, upcoming content, upcoming streams, um, stuff like that. And it really, really helps the channel out, and it helps me out. So thank you. But yeah, like, subscribe, and I will talk to you guys later. Peace.